last just a couple minutes here, what I was going to put Mike and Andy on the spot here for a bit. I know we talked a little bit about what kinds of things, having sat here and been thinking about this for a while, can you sort of project out over maybe the next year that would be not cast in stone, but certainly things that you're thinking about that would be sort of continuing or sustaining the effort around the open data initiative here. So,
one of the things, I don't know if this is directly answering your question, but I've had a number of people at this conference come up to me and say, so I've got an idea, and usually when you approach a philanthropy with an idea, it's I've got this thing, I think it's worthy of funding, and I've been impressed with how many of those ideas I've heard and the diversity of ideas and how many great ideas I've heard, in addition to what we're seeing on the board here. So it strikes me that one potential way we can measure the success of this is the degree to which we can get, perhaps my foundation, but all the foundations, philanthropy was mentioned, I think, for the skills group, but how much we can get philanthropies on board, because I really don't think, a lot of this is going to take money. I think we've got some great ideas here, but I don't think some of this is necessarily for government to fund, and so I think we got to look to philanthropy to help out, and I'm certainly part of that. Yeah. Daniel was just mentioning, a couple months ago, back in December, Mike had asked us to put together a meeting of some of the philanthropies in California, the Endowment, Wellness Foundation, who are supporting this event, and a bunch of others. Lucille Packard Foundation was there, Reagan. First Five. By the way, I didn't mention Moira Kenny. Yeah, sorry about this. Moira Kenny was slated to be on the panel, as you probably saw in your book. She actually had to serve on, she was called to testify, and just a little bit that way, so she couldn't actually be on the panel, but she was there for this philanthropy meeting, and I think getting philanthropies on board to think about open data, you're going to need to target their interests. You're going to need to find projects that relate specifically to their interests. But we had a good conversation. They were engaged. I think it's something we're going to all have to move forward, and I honestly think the best way to do that is, foundations perk up when you can start to, identify and talk about projects that really relate to their core values and their core goals.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I think the next year we're going to continue on the path that we're on. We're going to accelerate the number of departments that we're bringing on, continue to bring the data sets up. But there are a couple things I want to see in the next year, and one of them is really the strategic thinking about to what end. So, when we pushed this effort forward, it was very much we need to get started in, the first step was really starting to put data up. But I think we need to start really thinking through, what do we want that data to be used for? What are some things that we want to see come out of this effort? I also want to really focus on how state government itself uses data, and I think that then it's a discussion to have with local governments as well, because a lot of the data is the same data, a lot of the programs are the same programs, the people are certainly the same people. And so we need to do a better job of looking at what we have and how are we using it. One of the things that I've really found satisfying about what we've done to this point is that it hasn't been person-centric. So, Esty was at the Department of Public Health, and was one of the, she was the person I relied on probably the most relative to open data, and then she went to Esri. But there were other people that we were relying on as well, and so there were people that were able to step into that vacuum, and if it had just been reliant upon that one person, then we would have faltered, and instead I didn't really see much change in the pace. We were able to hand off to other people. We were able to move it into a governance structure. In many ways, it forced, we were already kind of doing this in a broader sort of a way, but it forced us to think through that even more and to bring more people into the decision making and helping to push the movement forward. So I want to see more of that built. I could have probably months ago handed this off to somebody else or off to a group and just said, continue doing what you're doing. We have a general path and just keep doing it. I don't think that we're at that point yet. I think that I still need to continue to push folks to really make sure that this is high on the priority list and that we're doing the things that we need to build a sustainable movement. But my goal is that we get to that point where, if I leave, if the secretary leaves, that this is embedded in the way that Health and Human Services does business and that it's sustainable. It's not dependent on any individual person. It's not dependent upon any given administration. It's also one of the things that when people talk to me about executive orders and legislation and those sorts of things, it's a catalyst, but executive orders only are as good as the people that are pushing them. And so, if people aren't committed to actually pushing through what that executive order says, it's not going to mean much. We actually are pushing this forward without those sorts of structures, and I think it's going pretty well. We need to broaden out into other aspects of state government, and so that's Stuart and I have been talking a lot about how to take what we've done in Health and Human Services and to move it out into the rest of state government. And that's another thing that I want to see over the next year. One of the advantages that we had, so people kind of throughout this conference said, how did you guys move quickly? And beyond getting me to actually get out of the way, one of the things was really it's having funding. So the California Healthcare Foundation has been instrumental in this. It gave us a revenue source, and you don't have to then redirect from your other priorities to do this as far as funding. It also gave us the ability to contract with Socrata to actually bring it up. So it gave us the technical abilities to do this. So I didn't have to have internal technical expertise to really bring the portal up. Those things are key. If you don't have those, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to all these different approaches to try to get to that point. So that really gave us the freedom to really focus on the data sets themselves, to focus on what was important to us, to really work through the procedures and the policies, but knowing that we had the funding and we had the expertise to move forward when we're ready to move forward.
Just thinking of, let's assume and hope that we have an event like this next year, March 2016, Stewards of Change, of course, doing this event. Just to put a challenge out there for all of us collectively, one challenge, of course, would be that, going back to that tagline of, I can't remember how exactly it was, the California Health Data Portal refreshed daily. I understand that may not be quite feasible within a year, but let's put it out there. But also, wouldn't it be wonderful if we can have at that event next year groups of people that come out from around the state, how Fresno's been effectively using these data, how San Bernardino County has been using these data, how smaller communities up in Northern California, how particular issue-specific areas have really used these data. Let's have a gallery. It could even be a gallery where people can show off some of the ways in which these data have really been harnessed and effectively used. I'd love to be able to see that. That's what I would most love to see in a year from now, is for us to be able to do that and show some of the evidence of how it's being used.
And to the point that I made at the beginning of the conference, I want to see state government engaging with local government. I want to see those relationships built. I want to see those partnerships. That's one of the things I wanted to see out of this convening. I do honestly want all of you to think about the people back at home who haven't bought in yet. And, think through why they haven't. I mean, they may just be a pain in the butt. I mean, that's quite possible that, you just have that person that's never going to buy in, and they're just going to be an obstacle, and you'll figure out ways around them. But if you really engage them and try to figure out why is it that they're having hesitation, do they just not see the value? Pose some of those questions that I posed at the beginning. Because you say transparency. Is there something about that that's frightening to you, or that you don't believe in? There are some people that may well be the case. It's generally not, though. I think you're going to find people that say, yeah, transparency, of course I'm with transparency. Do you not think that this will allow us to do our business more efficiently? Maybe they don't, but you can explain some of the ways that you've heard here how it does make government more efficient, how it frees up people to do things in a better, more effective way. But really kind of engage them to see if there are ways to break through some of those barriers and help them to move you forward, whether it's in your agency or a sister agency, or it's the leadership in your city or county or state agency.
Just one final comment. I know we're wrapping up, but I've had a couple of people ask me throughout the 2 days and say, gosh, you must be tired, all this work you put in. And sure, I put in some work, to do this, but really, I really want to thank Stewards of Change. I mean, they're the ones that put in the work. They're the ones that really deserve to be tired, that must be tired. Daniel and the entire staff, for the job they did to put this event on, the agenda they put together, the collaborative nature they gave this, and to make sure that it all ran so smoothly. So I'll turn it over to you, but I wanted to make sure to thank you.
Thank you.